that? No, not really? Well, it's blowing this way. That's the winds of change. Because I'm telling you right now, this car here is about to cause a major upset. Why? Because Lexus have no business being in a sports sedan segment. Yet, they did it. In fact, they were so audacious, they started with the LFA. And all those genes trickled down to here, to the IS350F Sport. We're about to take it through its paces right here in Tarlac, only here on Drive. Well, you know how they say all good things must come to an end. If you've scratched the itch with either the Evo or the Subaru WRX and you finally have to grow up sometime, this is the car that you're going to graduate into. It is like a premium Japanese sports sedan. And it's catering to a segment that really didn't exist before this sort of popped up. Because Lexus have thrown in 306 horsepower under that beautiful hood, and they've wrapped it in this very, very elegant body. It's just pure Lexus everywhere, but it's still a fire-breathing monster underneath. But it does it Lexus style. So on the outside, it's just beautiful to look at, but this is a true sleeper. They won't even see you coming. Watch. Biggest difference that you'll feel here in the Lexus is, yes, it's got the power, yes, it's got the noise too. It's got a great sound, this car, but it's a lot softer, a lot. It's smooth. It's really, really smooth. So, you know, you think it's a luxury car up until you put your foot down, and then it becomes a different animal. It's angry. It's not meant to be a Subaru WRX STI. I mean, it gives you the experience in a whole different way. Think of it like premium Japanese whiskey, like Yamazaki or something like that. Something that just delivers it. Same type of, you're still getting the effect, but it's just the way it does it is so smooth, so fluid, and just so, well, it's got a lot of class. When you talk about luxury cars, you get a nice car that's really nice to drive on the road like a Lexus is, but when you put it on the track, the steering is vague, disconnected, numb, woolen. This didn't have that. It's not as tight as a Subaru, it's not as responsive as a Subaru, but it is still a real surprise. It's great. It turns very well. When you're coming into these corners, you don't get that same type of feeling that you get in the Subaru, but when you accelerate out, oh boy, has it got the sound to match. You got the paddles, there's understeer there, and that's really, even though it's a rear-wheel drive, it's the weight of the car and the suspension tuning. So there is a bit of a compromise when you talk about sports sedan in this Lexus, but it's not because they don't know how, it's just because they've chosen to really stick with the core values of the brand. Lexus started out as being they wanted to become the world's #1 luxury brand. And when they launched in 1989 in the North American Auto Show, they were laughed out because they were like, come on, you can't do that, not here in the world's biggest market. Not against people like BMW, Mercedes. Well, it only took them a few years, 3 or 4 years, and they were the world's #1 luxurious car maker. So the core values have always been luxury. The steering is actually really good because normally what happens when you have a comfortable car, a luxury car, the steering is so dull and woolen and vague and stuff like that. That's the trade-off. But I have to say, this is a very, very nice steering for a luxury car. It's a whole different experience. Once again, it takes a sports sedan to a whole new level, a level that didn't exist before. So that's what this brings to the table for our Japanese sports sedan segment. It's bringing that whole sports sedan into the first class area. If you can afford it, if you've grown up, this is the car that you graduate into from a WRX. Lexus run the 8-speed gearbox here. They run a beautiful 8-speed gearbox with paddle shifters, so it's easy to come in and select the right gear, whereas the Subaru, you got that heavy clutch, you've got the gears which are really precise. I mean, but you have to work at it. You really constantly have to do your own shifting, and the way that you drive the car is completely different. The 8-speed gearbox is not really for the sportiness so much as it is for comfort, but surprisingly it's still kept up here in the track. So it's a very, very smooth gearbox. One of the first things that you'll notice with the Lexus IS, and that really floors everybody, when you sit inside it, because you see it from the outside and you go, oh, okay, nice looking car, but it doesn't scream at you. The potential is not really seen from there, because they got elegant lines. It looks nice, but it's not in your face. But once you sit inside and you see this driving position, this steering wheel, it's almost like it was lifted out of an LFA. And then the gauges were inspired by the LFA. In fact, the whole car was inspired by the LFA. When you've got these LED gauges there that you can flick and switch just like you would in a PlayStation. It's so virtual. It's like you're in a PlayStation. Saw that in the GTR first and Skyline, and loved it. Absolutely loved it. And then the Lexus LFA had it as well. So to bring it into a car under 3 million pesos is such a treat, because it really does give you this whole virtual reality feel to the car. I mean, you can change the whole mood, and it's wonderful. And I'll just show you how that's done. That is so cool. When you shift them through here, and then you change the look of the speedometer, press it like that. Then when you change into sport, just see how it comes alive, and you just see the whole difference of the speedometer. It's now, it gets into a different mode, and at night, wow, this thing is just really, really involving. We're featuring different types of sports sedans. We're not really comparing one to the other, because you just can't. You can't compare an all-wheel drive to a rear-wheel drive to a boxer engine to they're all different, and that's the beauty of it. What we're doing is we're telling you these are the experiences you can get in the Japanese sports sedan segment. And now there is a first-class ticket to it. You know, there's plenty of ways to get the same job done, just like there's plenty of ways to make whiskey or plenty of ways to make wine. There's a different format for Lexus. And just as long as you understand the weight and you understand the tuning of the suspension and just make slight compensations for that, you can have just as much fun in this as anything else and still come out without breaking a sweat. So any surprises for you? I certainly was the first time I hopped behind the wheel of this sucker over here, the Lexus IS350F Sport. And it's that F that makes all the difference. You know what they say about the F word, right? Okay, next week we got another major one lined up for you. It's gonna be jam-packed. We're gonna stuff it even fuller than a Balik Bayan box for you. And if you have anything more that you'd like to see in the show, well, it's quite simple. Just send us your recommendations through Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or look for me on my website, jamesdeacon.ph. It's as simple as that. So, till next week, this is James Deacon. Drive safely, everyone. $7.50, 7 pesos 50. My first earnings as a jeepney driver.